Something that I'm interested to see if you felt it was as you liked as much as I did. Ocean's 8, Gary Ross's sequel, I guess. Well, I don't even know how to describe it. In the same universe as the Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, which I didn't realize that those were dropped around December. At least the first two, and then the 13 was dropped in June, and also had the lowest grossing box office, which I found very interesting. But yeah, Gary Ross, so he's the director of The Hunger Games, Seabiscuit. This was, I left the movie theater with probably the biggest smile I have all year. I found it very fun.
Exactly.
I don't think it was great, but it was fun, and that's really what I was looking for from this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very good. I think it's very fun. It probably inherently low stakes by design, but I think it's incredibly enjoyable. There's really nothing I disliked about it at all. But to your point about the original Ocean's trilogy, those came out in 01, 04, and 07, and they of course starred George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Matt Damon,
and your guy Don Cheadle.
And yet, Ocean's 8 outgrossed all of their opening weekends. Ocean's 8 made 41.6 million this past weekend, and the highest earner for Ocean's 8 was for the original trilogy was Ocean's 12 and 04 with 39. And I find that very interesting because I thought early 2000s, Clooney, Pitt, and Damon, all really hot, big actors back in time when a lot of people still went to the movies a lot more than they do now. I just found that very surprising. Now, the original, the Ocean's 11 from 01 did make 450 million worldwide. I'm not sure if Ocean's 8 can do that because it didn't make a lot worldwide, internationally this past weekend. But either way, interesting to see. And before we get into the film, it's been frustrating watching these female-led casts. Every time they exist, they have to, prove the bankability and viability of their whole gender every single time. I'm just so tired of that. I mean, the Ghostbusters reboot in 2016 was plagued by this, and some people were like, "Oh, why are they rebooting this? They didn't have to do this." Bernie Mac's rolling in his grave, and I'm like, "Oh, you mean the Ocean's trilogy that remade the original Ocean's 11 with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis?" Let's step back on that. But I think we're finally getting to a point where people are like, "Oh yeah, women can be the majority of the cast, and it's not a female movie; it's just a movie." Whenever there's a movie with all men and the only woman is a love interest, no one cares. It's just a movie to them, right? It's the same thing here. And it's funny because Richard Armitage, if he was a woman, he wouldn't pass the Bechdel test in this movie either. But it doesn't matter. That's his role. But yeah, to the movie itself, I agree with you. I think it's a really fun heist movie. I think it kind of captures what made Ocean's 11 compelling, rewatchable, and fun. But it kind of twists a little bit on itself with, obviously a great cast of talented people. And I think it's a very successful movie and obviously set up for more sequels.
Yeah, to talk to your point about the female-led cast, they even nodded to it in a way. There was that part where they're trying to figure out who they get, and Debbie Ocean, played by Sandra Bullock, is like, "No, I don't want him." And they're like, "Why?" Because to him, no hymns. Yeah, I actually really appreciated that. The cast I thought was great, and my first thought, really leaving the theater, was, why don't they just do this every year? I wouldn't mind seeing it an Ocean's. I love heist movies. I love these sort of how are you going to get the team together? How are you going to figure it out? How are you going to what's the twist can be at the end? I always really enjoy those. But I think the difficulty is that these casts are just so stacked that to get all these people available at the same time to interact is just basically impossible. And also could grow a little stale, I think, if you do too much of it.
Right. And I mean, to that point, not every heist movie with good reviews does well. You don't have to look much farther than Logan Lucky last August, right?
True.
Also from Steven Soderbergh, the guy who directed the Ocean's trilogy. So, and I think this movie had to be attached to a sort of IP, Ocean's 8, to get all this big name talent to justify I think it's a $70 million budget, which is not a ton, but it's still not a Blumhouse movie. It's still expensive.
Yeah. That was actually the thing I liked the least, though, was that it was tied directly, like the callbacks to Danny Ocean being dead, and that didn't really play well for me. I go ahead.
Right. And I was interesting because a lot of the press tour, they've been kind of pushing back on comparing it to the old trilogy and all those questions, but yet the movie can't quite get away from that. I mean, what's his name? The amazing Yen. He's in the movie, and Matt Damon's Linus also had a cameo that they later cut, I think, after his downsizing comments, right? But either way, like, it's still very much lived in it. Like, there's many callbacks to Danny, like you said, and Debbie's whole family. So again, I do agree that's a weak point. I think in Ocean's 9 they can probably get away from that. But I mean, let's go through the whole cast, all 8 of them. I mean, obviously a very talented group of actors, all with great success. So I mean, who really stood out to you? I thought they all were good, but who really stood out to you?
I had 3 people that really stood out to me. Number 1, Cate Blanchett. First of all, I don't remember like ever seeing Cate Blanchett in a movie and not liking her. But I was also trying to think, how many movies have I seen her in? And the only one I can really think of is Thor Ragnarok.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings as well, obviously. But I'm thinking like recently, like it's been a little bit.
She was in, was it Carol or Brooklyn? I forget, one of those.
Brooklyn is like my most forgotten Oscars movie of the last 4 years, whenever it came out. But she was great. I mean, she played Lou, who was basically like Rusty for this movie.
Exactly.
And it's such an awesome role to play because you just get to be really cool and basically just like be there and be the person who fix things. Honestly. Yeah, that was the thing, is with a movie like this, there's so many good people. You have to give them all moments. Someone that got a lot of screen time and had a pretty big role, Rihanna, I thought was excellent. And really did not expect her to be like that awesome as an actor. I think she's only been in a couple of films, and every scene she was in, I thought she was really good. And Helena Bonham Carter, also for me, I was like, it's nice to not see you doing a Tim Burton movie and just getting to be you.
Exactly, that's my thought, because she's obviously a eccentric actress that she plays into that, but she's also really talented. Bellatrix Lestrange, look no further, right? She plays weird people. And not that she's not doing that this time, but I think it's not an unhinged performance this time. I think it goes over very well. I agree.
Yeah, instead of being, the queen in Alice in Wonderland, where you're playing like this very specific character, she got to kind of just be a human being who is a little quirky, but still like, very human, which I really appreciated. Also someone that I really liked, Sarah Paulson, which I also was like, this is the first time I can remember seeing you and being like, oh, this is like Sarah Paulson getting to like be a person as well, even though she obviously is like this criminal, and like all these people are criminals, which is also like the weird part of this. But like I think about her, and I think about her on like The People versus OJ,
American Horror Story.
Yeah, and she's always playing these like weird roles. Like, to get to see her just kind of be a person, I was like, this is really refreshing. I really enjoyed that. What about you?
I agree with all those. I thought Anne Hathaway probably stole every scene she was in, especially as the movie progressed.
Magnetic.
Yeah, she's electric in this. I mean, she's kind of been away from acting a little bit, with a pregnancy and whatnot. But and she also got like, I thought, like way too much shit for some of like her award show behavior, like the past 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, Anne Hathaway's been great for a long time. I mean, she won the Oscar in Les Mis, and that's kind of where the controversy started. But it's like, I've always liked Anne Hathaway, and I never understood like the turn on her. But she plays a compelling like foil to Debbie, and like, once they flip it and she becomes the 8th member, as everyone probably saw coming. I think it works well, and her character only grows and commands more of the scenes as the movie goes on.
Yeah. And thinking about Anne Hathaway, I feel like she's almost been typecast at this point. Before she was like when she first started, was it Princess Diaries?
Yep.
She was like the sweet kind of nerdy girl who, becomes a princess. But now she's become almost like the successful young person who is like jaded and kind of has like, it's like, just let Anne Hathaway be like the sweet like person she seems to be, but maybe that actually fits her personality better behind the scenes. Who knows? Sure. I don't know. But yeah, I thought she was great as well. Who else stood out to you?
I liked Awkwafina a lot.
Yeah.
She's kind of been, it's funny. She's like an underground, like New York rapper. but she's also been picking up more and more film roles recently. She'll be in a Crazy Rich Asians later this year, and I thought she was good. I mean, actually, the character I thought was probably the least served was Mindy Kaling's character.
Interesting.
Just because I didn't think she had enough to do. I don't know. Like, in fact, her contributions to the heist is probably one of the most important. Yet, I don't know. Maybe did she not have enough speaking roles? Perhaps I don't know. I just thought she was the most underserved.
Yeah, she was underserved, but the one I liked the least was actually Sandra Bullock as Debbie Ocean.
Interesting.
I mean, I know that she's basically trying to fill George Clooney's shoes, and trying to play Clooney is a near impossible role. And I don't know if she was trying to like impersonate him per se, but just kind of give that like cool, calm, collected vibe. Obviously, it's Danny's sister. I felt like for someone like Sandra Bullock, who is able to do so many things, check so many boxes, to kind of almost like limit her in this. I thought the scenes I liked her most in was when she was actually inside the Met Gala, because she got to kind of walk around, she got to like do stuff instead of just like trying to deliver some one-liners and kind of funny things. But yeah, overall, I don't really have a lot of parts I didn't like. Did you think that this was a good script?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I saw some comments about how like the heist not working for some people. I actually really like the heist. It's not as like zany and out there as the Ocean's 11 heist, the one everyone remembers. So it's tough to compare it to that. But if anything, I thought was weak about the script. I thought the getting the gang together bit in the beginning where they recruit everyone. Maybe I was comparing to Ocean's 11. I'm not sure, but I actually like that less than the heist. And obviously, getting the gang together bits are always awesome. So yeah.
I thought the script was okay. I think it could have been improved. Some of the parts I would have improved would have been kind of her backstory with Claude was the painter, Richard Armitage.
Yeah, Thorin Oakenshield from The Hobbit.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was a little weak. I also thought that like the getting the gang together scene was weak. Also, the end when they all get their money, like the end of Ocean's 11, one of the most memorable scenes of them standing in front of that fountain, and they didn't really have that. They're all hanging out. Then
a little rushed.
Yeah, and it just felt like it was relying too heavily on twist after twist. Like, oh, so Anne Hathaway was part of this. Oh, so there was actually two heists. Oh, so there's Yen. Like, it was almost like they didn't really get a chance to like see the emotional weight of this group coming together, which is kind of what they alluded to was like the important part of this is their relationship within it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, these are just little things. It was fun. Like and the music was great.
James Corden was good.
Yeah. I liked the conversation between James Corden and Anne Hathaway, and he's like, "Some days I just love my job." Like, it really made me laugh when he said that. What did you think about this not really having a villain?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just when you think Anne Hathaway is gonna like play into that, it totally flips. And Richard Armitage he's framed. He wasn't really a bad guy. If anything, he was just a
weasel,
the piece of Sandra Bullock's ire, I guess. I don't know. What I did like though was that in Ocean's 11, the heist is all about Danny getting Julia Roberts getting Tess back, right? But in this one, they flip it and it's all about Debbie screwing over her ex, not getting him back. So I thought that was a nice flip.
It's a good juxtaposition, I suppose. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Any last thoughts? Ocean's 9?
Oh, definitely. Come on.
Yeah. And I'm excited for it too.
So who would you cast in it? Obviously a woman.
Tessa Thompson, Carrie Coon, one of those two.
Alicia Vikander, any of them.
If they put it, so supposedly
play European,
right? Well, apparently Elizabeth Banks was supposed to be attached to this, so
she would have fit.
Yeah, I feel like she could be a good addition. Maybe I don't really know. Was anyone in the Linus role in this movie? Maybe they need a Linus.
That's true. They don't really have a Linus. Maybe Anne Hathaway could do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anne Hathaway might be perfect for that. So, we'll see. It'll be really interesting. And there's probably gonna be a true villain for the next one, I'd imagine. So
sure. It'll probably get a little more money to work with too.
Definitely. So looking forward to that.